Hey, what's up guys? This is Church of Caboose, and for this video it is the raid guide for the third encounter inside of the Deepstone Crypt raid. It is for the Nuclear Descent. The biggest difference is we got one role added called Suppressor, and we're not actually dealing any kind of boss damage. We are instead preventing a nuclear disaster from happening, and if my lore mediocrity proves correct, we essentially end up resulting in crashing the ship because we foil Taniks' plans and save Europa from turning into a nuclear wasteland. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe to my channel, make sure you like the video and share the video. Those go a long ways in supporting my channel, don't require much effort from you guys, and are completely free. If you'd like to support my channel in other ways, links for those things are down below. If you would like to be in a clan so you got more LFG, more members to hang out with and do things and whatnot, feel free to join our Benchful Discord server. We have clans for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. We are currently around 250 to 300 members, and we're running raids rather constantly. In fact, the day I'm recording, they're doing a clan raid and teaching like 4 people, so it's a good clan to be a part of. Alright, so we're going to go ahead now and get on into the guide for the third encounter, the Nuclear Descent. In this encounter, we have 3 roles. Before, we only had 2 with Operator and Scanner, and now we have the addition of the Suppressor role. What the Suppressor does is there's these like 3 golf ball things across the map that you can kind of see on screen. It's that little ball with the orange and white stripes. You just go stand underneath it once these nuclear orbs have spawned, and you will have the boss, Taniks, give a little bit of like a bluish aura, or at least when I've run Suppressor on the final encounter, that's what happens. But you stand under it and you can damage the boss. Damage him inside of each of those little orbs, and you then suppress the boss, which allows these nuclear cores to be deposited. So that's what the role of the Suppressor is inside of this encounter. We will have a visual, but I think in this particular instance, it's not a very complicated encounter, so we're going to start off with the order of things and how everything goes down, and then we'll end with the layout, since it kind of, to me, seems to make a little bit more sense to go that way. Like before, the Operator shoots these panels that are on different sides of the map. As you can kind of see there on screen, there's one by each of those nuclear cores, and there happens to be 2 on the left side and 2 on the right side. There's one to the left and right ones are kind of in the middle, are going to be on that bridgy area that's off the ground on side of that catwalk. The ones that are on the far left and the far right are more on the ground against the far walls. You'll be able to tell if cores are coming out of there because you'll kind of see them glow a little bit. And you know these cores are going to spawn because a little alarm starts to go off, and you kind of see things kind of pick up tempo just a little bit. Then the Operator is shooting those panels, you got the cores being dumped, and the Scanner tells you which bins to put those cores into. You can see kind of on the area around the boss, you got 2 bins on the right side and 2 bins on the left side, and they glow bright yellow only to the Scanner. Just like the panels would glow yellow to the Scanner, so do these bins that you deposit the nuclear cores into. So you would then have your Scanner say something on the lines of right 1, right 2. You could say far right 1, far right 2, back right 1, whatever, as long as your team knows which ones to deposit into, at which point your nuclear folks should say, hey, I've got this bin, and so your other one's like, alright, I got this other one. Because if you deposit into the wrong bin, you die. Or if you deposit it into the same bin twice, that second person will then die. That doesn't necessarily wipe the encounter, it just gives you some more reses you have to deal with, and someone needs to pick up that core and put it into the right bin. Now, there is a little bit of a death mechanic that goes along with these cores. When you pick up a core, you get something called radiation. If you hit radiation of 10, you die. but you can have teammates take them away from you. So say your suppressor is being maybe a little bit slow on stunning the boss, because that's what allows you to actually put those cores inside of the bin. You could then have someone come and grab your radiation buff, and then you kind of keep trading it back and forth until that suppressor is able to suppress the boss. However, suppressing the boss is not usually a very difficult task, and so I wouldn't expect this to come up very often once you and your mates have kind of learned the process of everything. So that really kind of wraps up the orders of stuff. You do this multiple times. I believe it's 5 or 6 times from what we can tell, and then you go to the middle of the map, and there's like these doors that open, you drop down, and you just run to the finish line. Everyone that gets into that airlock survives, and that completes the encounter. So now let's go ahead and just kind of show you guys the layout of where everything is at inside of this encounter. Here is the map of the third encounter. Thank you very much, Crazy Corgi Queen, for putting this together. Also, if you join our clan or for current clan members, this is currently pinned inside of our Discord server, so you guys can check this out. So how it's laid out, we have the boss spawn there at the top. Where we start the encounter is at the very bottom. That's where you kind of are spawned in when you first enter the room. Then we have, for the green stars, is our core deposits. These are the bins you put those nuclear cores into. In the terminals, those are the yellow squares. That's where if you need to switch around your scanner, suppressor, and operator roles. Because every time you suppress the boss, he puts out a little like EMP type thing, and someone will have their role deactivated, so all they have to do is put it into the terminal, and so their backup person grabs it. We'll give like a full run through step by step here after this going through the layout. Then we've got our suppressor, where our little yellow, or it's not yellow, orange and white balls are at, so you can stun the boss, or in the blue. And our core spawns are in the orange. That's where you find all of those things at. So I just want to leave this up here just real briefly so you guys can kind of familiarize yourselves with this. Feel free to take a screenshot or do whatever you have to do. Preferably subscribe and hop into our Benchful Discord server so you can be in the Xbox, PlayStation, or a PC clan. Alright, so now I'm going to end the video by trying to go through sort of a step-by-step of what happens this first, and then this, and then this, so that way you guys are rather familiar with it. So the sequence of events goes as follows. First, you pop into the room and you set your roles. You want to have a primary scanner, a backup scanner. These would be people who are switching the scanner role back and forth if the primary scanner gets deactivated. You have the primary operator and the secondary operator. These are who are switching back and forth the operator role should the operator role get deactivated. Then we've got the primary suppressor and the secondary suppressor for the same thing. Now this kind of a concept will carry over to the final boss, so stay tuned to the channel for that guide to come out along with complete visuals. Once that encounter has started, you will kill ads for a little bit, and don't worry, the boss is immune. After a period of time, you will hear these alarm bells go off. This means everyone needs to start doing their roles. The alarm bells signify that the nuclear cores have spawned, so you need to locate those on screen, and you want to have probably set up for your core carriers to be originally your backup people. So you probably have a backup scanner and or the backup operator or suppressor trying to go and grab those cores. Then once those cores are deposited or picked up, you definitely want to be having that scanner. We have already called out, hey, the cores go in bins R1, R2, whatever the case may be. It's very dependent upon you. I usually call them right bin by boss, or left bin by boss, or right bin by spawn, left bin by spawn. Now those two people are heading to where they need to go, and by this point hopefully the suppressor has gone to the 3 of those little balls that are white and orange stripes and has suppressed the boss, because at that point your folks with the cores are able to deposit. Once those cores are deposited, that is one cycle, and everyone needs to check to make sure they're deactivated or not. And then one person will be deactivated. So that person then says, hey, a suppressor is deactivated. Backup's like, I got it. Suppressor that's been deactivated takes that role, puts it into a terminal, and then they are on a lockout from being that role for the next about 40 seconds. At that point, the backup suppressor goes to a terminal, could be the same one or a different one, and picks up the role, and they are now the primary primary scanner, while that person that was primary is now the backup and can fill in things such as carrying those cores or assisting with ad clear, whatever your team needs. You repeat this cycle about 5 or 6 times. Eventually, you'll see all of the ads despawn. This means you need to run to these gray metal doors. You can kind of see them to the left on screen. That are in the center of the area and the floor in front of the boss. And then once those doors open up, you drop down and you run your happy butt all the way to the end. So that way you get to that airlock and you are all set. At this point, you just wait for the ship to crash. Eventually, the screen goes all dark. You kind of lose all your health, and then you're able to pick up the chest. And that is the third encounter. It's not too difficult to try and make up for mistakes. There's things like clearing out overload champions that make it easier. Probably the hardest thing that will cause the most deaths will be is if your suppressor is slow, because that radiation does take a little while to go away. While if everything goes smoothly, you can have the same core person grabbing them over and over. If things aren't going smoothly with the suppressor and they're having to juggle it back and forth, eventually they're going to have to pretty much hot potato it and see who's going to be the first one to die. So you want to have that suppressor going first. So there are like one really massive wipe mechanic that I am aware of, besides sometimes the game glitches and just kills everybody. The only real wipe mechanic that I have found is if no one picks up an orb and that timer runs out, whether it's from the core terminal or it's because someone died and dropped it on the ground, then you will have a team wipe because the nuclear core blew up and y'all got nuked like you do in Call of Duty. Otherwise, there's really not many wipe mechanics. It's a rather easy raid encounter to save if there is a mistake, so don't get too panicky if someone goes down and you're like, oh no, we got it. It's no big deal. It's part of the ease of having 2 people doing each role. Something to make it even easier would be as if you've got folks that know multiple roles. So for example, I happen to know how to do all of the roles inside of this encounter. So if someone goes down or if someone's being slow to pick up on a terminal, I can just fill in. And most of my team tends to be that way. So we can kind of just start it and folks are just like, oh, I got blah, blah, blah. And then we just kind of make it work. It works pretty well. If you're doing flawless, you definitely want to have things more set up ahead of time. That's the encounter. I really hope this helped. Please comment down below if you know the lore, details about what we are actually doing besides preventing a nuclear disaster from ruining Europa. Please let me know. I'd be really curious to learn, but honestly, I'm a little too lazy to look it up, and I'm sure my wife will figure it out at some point, so I will know eventually. But if you want to let me know, that'd be great. Otherwise, I really appreciate you all for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, share the video, like the video, and let me know how these visuals are working for you guys. The next video on the raid boss will also have very similar graphics, unless folks have some very good constructive criticism about things they would find useful for future graphics, so we could try to maybe make some of those changes for you guys. And then the clan would probably get those changes for the other graphics as well, but time will tell if we're able to pull that one off or not. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I am Church of Caboose. Have a great week and happy grinding, y'all.